The Boys is a show by Prime Video written by Eric Kripke that serves to answer the question, what if all superheroes weren't so super? What if instead they were corrupt and they also worked for a company that was somehow even more corrupt? Well, then you end up with a show like this, where a man gets his girlfriend ran over by a literal guy named A-Train. This show has a lot of crazy moments sprinkled throughout each episode or even an entire season throughout. And for today's video, I want to do the most diabolical episode of each season. This includes seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4. And for the sake of the video's continuity and the whole universe, I'll include The Boys Diabolical, the animated show, and of course, Gen V. So let's get it started and go with the prequel show to begin with it all.
We should drop the. Just Homelander is better.
Out of the 3 episodes that the showrunner Eric Kripke has confirmed are canon to the main show, this by far can possibly be the biggest diabolical one out of all of them yet. The thing is, you have Nubian versus Nubian, which is a very messed up episode, but topicking Homelander in this episode, it shows his sort of backstory with the scientist that experimented on him as a kid, which does get brought back later in season 4. But this episode also has a lot of twists and turns for Homelander and Black Noir, whether it be accidentally killing people or purposely doing it and then playing it off in the side of Vought. There's so many messed up moments in this like short little 13-12 minute episode, and it's very dark to the sense where this is really a prelude for everything that comes after that we know currently.
There's 7 for God's sake. Whether we're out there or we're in here.
While season 1 does have a lot of crazy episodes, either being the very first episode or the exact finale of the season, I feel that the 4th episode, The Female of the Species, is by far the most crazy episode in this season. There's so many moments within this episode that serve to be critical. While there is a bit of humor sprinkled here and there throughout for just comic relief, there are more serious moments, especially one in particular with the whole Homelander plane sequence. But it's not even just that adds up to this episode. In this episode, you have the very first appearance of Kimiko in the whole show. And her first interaction with anyone on screen is pretty crazy alone. Even to the point where one dude offs himself in the case of it. But when you look back at it, this episode has just that one scene that I keep referring to, which is the plane sequence. It's something so crazy that it still comes back later on. Even up to Gen V or even Season 2. Hell, even to Season 3 it's still brought up. I think is season 4 is where it starts like wearing off, but this whole sequence, it takes such a toll on the story, the whole plot. It's a major plot point for the whole story, and the way it shifts Homelander's character going forward into the show, it's pretty terrifying. Even if you were to remove the factor of this in hindsight, I feel like this whole episode is just messed up for this one moment alone. This man gives every passenger on board a false sense of hope, especially this one little girl. And when you look back at it, or even if you didn't see it and you were watching it for the first time, you know what's about to go down and you know how messed up it's going to be. But even when the people plead for their life, Homelander just straight up lasers them, or at least threatens to. And it's so messed up. Because this man, this is his first instance of just playing dirty for his own self-benefit. You could argue he did at the end of episode 1 for season 1. But this is like the craziest extent it ever went to. And it only gets worse from here because it follows up in later seasons. But you can argue Madeline Stillwell's death has such an impact to be above from all these, but I feel like this scene is by far above that. Because this is such a critical moment in the show, and for the season itself, that I feel like it could carry it all the way to the top as being the most diabolical.
Oh, fucking diabolical.
So for season 2, it's very tricky because there's 2 or 3 episodes that could easily take this. And ultimately I chose episode 3. To compare it to the finale of What I Know, or even episode 7 where Victoria Newman pops everyone's heads, there's a lot of diabolical moments throughout, but for this episode, this is where you first get the confrontation of Kimiko and Stormfront, and her brother as well. This is the same episode where you first see Stormfront's real views, and this is also the same episode where she kills Kimiko's brother. And these moments throughout the story are very crucial because up to this point, it's a big detour from what you know Stormfront to be. This is one of those episodes where you have those moments sprinkled throughout of humor, for example the whale scene, but this also has its fair share of dark moments with Huey almost being killed by Starlight due to Homelander's command. While that one sequence with Newman popping everyone's head in episode 7's ending, I still feel like this episode has a lot of crazier stuff. Like I said, with Stormfront, you have that whole sequence, and it's just such a dark moment in the show. Especially when you're watching it for the first time, or even in hindsight, you know exactly how bad this one scene is. You have, first of all, Huey's traumatized in this episode with the whole whale scene. You have Kimiko, who's traumatized over the fact that her brother's killed in her face. There's just so many moments that if you look in this episode and just deep dive into it, you'll see how much of a diabolical episode this really is compared to the other ones. Because in this, I feel like the moments really do make the episode stand out compared to the other ones. In this one in particular, you have a lot of moments with Homelander being very villainous, and then you have moments of Stormfront being villainous, or even just the boys doing some terrible stuff. And it's one of those episodes where if you were to like rewatch it and see a certain clip, you'll be like, this episode had a lot to offer compared to other ones. But like I said, season 2 is such a hard one to pick through because a lot of the episodes are pretty diabolical, and a lot of moments stand out for future episodes and seasons. I also want to address the elephant in the room with Becca's death of the finale. While that is a big, crucial moment for the story, and I do really love the finale, it's my favorite episode of season 2, I don't think it's good enough alone to push the whole thing compared to episode 3. I don't think it's that much of a diabolical moment. Is it important? Yes. But when you compare it to episode 3, I feel like that has really more effed up moments throughout, which is why I put that higher.
There are a lot of people in there.
Well, as long as they stay out of my way, they'll be fine.
Honestly, is there any other episode in season 3 that can take this other than Herogasm? I seriously can't see anything coming close to it at all. There's so much stuff I can't even show for this video on this episode for obvious reasons. But with what I can say off the basis is that this episode has a lot of really unhinged crazy stuff going on. Whether you have Soldier Boy completely annihilating everyone in sight in the whole Herogasm event, or from the whole segment with Frenchie and Kimiko and that traumatizing event, or even just Homelander going insane with his double persona. There's so much to be going on in this one episode. And that's not even including all the crazy batshit insane stuff that it shows you visually, in the words of Mother's Milk of season 4. But this whole episode has so many crazy sights and moments throughout, either it being humorous or just plain out disgusting. This episode has it all. Not to mention, this man Homelander first appears in the episode to step on someone in the Herogasm event and just kill them. It's such a messed up moment too. And I haven't even brought up the fact that A-Train kills Blue Hawk in this episode. While it does seem justified for his sense, and even though his brother doesn't follow through with it in the later episode. And for context, this whole moment has a lot of meaning to it. It follows through with A-Train to the next season and even the end of this one. And there's just so much moments in this episode, it's like too much to even process. This is really the peak of it all as far as how crazy this show can get. And I don't think there's really any word to describe Herogasm. You can call it great, you can call it crazy, you could call it diabolical, it doesn't matter. But this episode has it all. It's just so much to process. So when you compare it to other episodes, I don't see anything beating it. And I'm very curious as to what argument someone can put towards beating Herogasm.
Greg?
I'm Bob.
Oh God, no, no!
Gen V is an easy episode to pick from, and that's the finale titled Guardians of Godolkin. Up to this point in the season, you know where things are about to be heading in a dark turn, because at the end of episode 7, you end up and start where Kate kills Indira Shetty, the dean of Godolkin University. And this is also the same finale where everything just gets completely chaotic. Everything just goes to shit, all hell breaks loose, and this is where Emma and Sam finally have their conflictions brought face to face and their own separate differences on how they view the whole situation. And it only gets worse from there, because this is where Sam finally gets the image of Luke removed from his mind, his brother. With the help of Kate tapping into his mind and his psyche, she removes the whole feeling from him, saying to feel nothing. And this adds a lot, because this goes to his character going forward, either in The Boys Season 4 when he appears, or even possibly Gen V Season 2 if they bring him back. Now the thing with him is that it's such a tragic story to look upon, because you know how he is prior in the season, and you feel it's something that could have been avoided had he not been in all these traumatizing events. And the way they handle Kate's plan about going about this with killing all the humans for possibly wrongdoing the Supes in the school is very crazy. Some of them get live streamed with their head blown up, and then others get their face melted. This is also the episode where Marie finally is able to control her powers, and in the process blows up Kate's arm before she could touch Jordan. And possibly on your first time watching this, you would have thought we're finally getting a happy ending. But no, instead you get Homelander's ass swooping in and making the situation far worse for our beloved characters. Now, up to this point, you're already knowing what these characters have dealt with prior. Homelander doesn't know anything. This man just swoops in, and instead of helping, he just lasers out Marie and Jordan and whoever else was in the incident. Because up to that point, we just know that they're held captive at the end of the season. But knowing where this further leads with the whole virus as the main plot point for Season 4, the whole links up to Season 5 going forward, we know the context this season served deeper other than these characters, and it's just that. And if you thought this finale wasn't already stacked, you have this episode where Billy Butcher finds the virus, and we all know where that follows in Season 4 and how much it's going to play a part in Season 5. But also, to keep context in here, we have that Sam and Kate are still around in the long-running end of the show. In Season 4 they appear, and in Season 5 you bet they're going to return. While Season 4 might not be everyone's cup of tea compared to other seasons, it does have the most wild or out-of-pocket moments throughout the season. For example, Episode 4, the whole confrontation with the scientist that worked on him when he was a kid, that was crazy stuff, especially with Marty. I don't even want to go in depth with that. You know what happened, and that is some wild thing. Or just the blow A-Train, but that's not enough to make it diabolical. Compared to like this finale, this really has everything going to hell. Same way Gen V had it. It's almost like they started a trend with Gen V. It's just every finale has like this kickoff that brings up this descent of madness in the episode. And for this finale, you have the whole Shapeshifter and Huey all coming into play of it feels like a furnace in here. There's so many little moments in this finale that pay off so well for what the previous episode set up. Now, like I said, all hell breaks loose, as with Gen V. The only difference is that this is with a lot of characters we are way more familiar with. And Homelander is just as unhinged as ever in this episode. Now he's just straight up showing it out to people who you would think that he would be fine with for the most part. But no, this man's threatening Victoria Newman by sending a severed hand to her. And then you have the whole sequence with everyone in Vought being killed for the sake of having dirt on anyone in the Seven. Or just in general on Homelander. But even with all that messed up stuff in this episode, there's the fact that you might think Victoria Newman might just join the boys and everything will go great. There might just be a shift. There might be something good going on. And even if something was to go wrong, the boys were prepared for the worst and would have handled it. But no. Instead, you have Mallory trying to keep Ryan hostage after just dumping all this exposition on him about how bad Homelander is. And up to this point, you're thinking things are bad enough with Joe Kessler finally in control of Billy and having the whole influence against him. You think things will finally go right for the boys when they're speaking to Newman. Nope. This man shows up with his parasite finally revealed, kills Newman, and then dips. So you can imagine how crazy that moment was to see. And for the people who were thinking that Frenchie and Kimiko were finally having a happy ending after what happened in this season, well, think again. The whole ending of Season 4 straight up takes that away from you. You don't even get to digest it for more than like a whole episode past that. Not even a half of it. You just straight up have it ruined immediately. And it's heartbreaking to witness too because Kimiko finally speaks in the moment. But that's not even the worst of it. Mother's Milk, I haven't even shown his clip because I can't. That man encounters Love Sausage again. First Herogasm and then this. He encounters him. And to find out that Sage is behind the whole breakout going unleashed on everyone for the boys, just for the sake of the thrill, is terrifying stuff. Not to mention Homelander's finally in power of charge. Now imagine how that's going to play a role in Season 5. And prior to this, Homelander has done some devious things, whether it be killing Webweaver or having Cameron Coleman killed. There are so many moments Homelander has done some devious things. I can't even bring up Mother's Milk for obvious reasons, like I said. But Billy Butcher now having the virus and being full on throttle for killing all the soups in the world, that is some crazy thought to be left on for a cliffhanger in Season 4. To keep in mind that Season 5 will in fact be bringing back Soldier Boy. In the post-credit scene, Homelander goes to where we left him off at in Season 3. So to see that coming back in Season 5 is more than a thought you can keep questioning yourself with. This is something that's going to be highly anticipated, and with the way that this season finale ended, it's more than enough to boost the whole season with this one episode being the most diabolical. And that's going to be it. That's the whole video. Hopefully there's at least one episode choice I picked in here that you agree with. If not, I'm curious to know what you guys think is the diabolical episode of a certain season. Maybe I have one that you guys didn't that might have just been completely wrong on my end, but I'm curious to know. And that will be all for today. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day.